My whole theory in life is, I'm so afraid of not trying. I'm not afraid of failing. I'm just afraid of not trying.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. Just let go. My friend Dan Khabie is on the show today, and he is something else. You know how we all have whisper brands, right? What people say about us when we're not there. I've been in a lot of situations where Dan Khabie comes up in conversation when he's not around, and everyone feels the same. The guy just literally loves life, and you can tell. You absolutely cannot fake that. In fact, I realize in speaking with Dan that he has this ability to flip a switch in moments where he can turn on the rocky soundtrack music in his mind on a moment's notice if he needs to. It's a pretty superior skill to have. But what's cool is he can help other people do that too. Not only can he actually flip the switch for them, but then teach them how to do it themselves. How cool is that? He has this zest for life and this ability to have his excitement become contagious to you. He can get you excited about anything and nothing at all and everything at the same time. His storytelling unlocks his ability to sell anything. He is a master storyteller. It's one of his secret weapons for sure. You will hear him tell some stories and understand why I say that. So in this episode, you hear the 24-year-old Dan that's starting his company as first-time entrepreneur, and a defining moment, a why not now moment that transformed and determined the trajectory of his career. Dan is one of the most decorated ad guys out there. He has put some numbers on the board, some big things, from building his own company, having it acquired, then running the company that acquired him, then basically doing it all over again. He's led thousands of people and he's seen it all. A couple of years ago, he set out on this new adventure to start something from scratch again, just to prove he could do it again, that he still had it. So what's Dan focused on now? He's the co-founder of CourtAvenue. In fact, his co-founder, Kenny Tomlin, has also been on this podcast, and he's a mentor of mine. Their managing partner, Michael Stick, has shown up on this podcast as well. This trio is a sure thing. I've bet on them. I'm an investor in CourtAvenue. So what is CourtAvenue? It's a digital transformation company, innovation company reimagined. So nothing like I've ever seen before. The incredible team of talent has a unique, unmatched way of identifying the appropriate trends and innovations for the right industries and creating the right experiences for consumers as a result. And so this matrix that they're able to apply allows for the next version of what we experience as consumers. CourtAvenue doesn't predict the future. They create the future. They invent the experiences that we have as we evolve and navigate as consumers. This is a wide conversation. There's nothing off topic. We go from flirting with failure to the triumph to the what the heck am I doing to the what am I going to do next, all within a short span of time. So without further ado, here is Dan Khabie. Dan, welcome to the show. This is such a treat. Thank you so much for joining me. And in the spirit of why not now, let's hop in as we typically do. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now? We will dissect that day, minute, hour, season, and really understand how you went from idea to action.
Great. Well, first of all, Amy Jo, it's great to be on here with you. I'm super excited, number one, because I know you have an amazing kind of audience base and you are an amazing human being. So I'm looking forward to just kind of sharing with you my story and my, kind of my chapters. And hopefully we get a chance to connect with the rest of the renegades out there. And, I'm an open book, so I'd love to share whatever I can share. But I think I have several different moments in my life. I think about why not now. And I'll just say a couple of things to start off with. Number one, I'm just very blessed to have an amazing wife and family around me. Number two, I grew up with I'm a first generation. My dad was from Syria. My mom was from Beirut. So we always had this kind of like fight in us. And I always tell people I'm a Midwesterner trapped in a Lebanese body because we grew up in Minnesota. And I actually didn't realize I was Lebanese until much older because my parents wanted us to be incredibly American. So I grew up like a normal American kid, but I had different food than everybody else, right? So like my mom would make me things like kibbe and sambusik and all these different types of food. And I think I created my sales ability because my mom would literally give me like Middle Eastern food and she put it in tinfoil. And then I would be like starving to death, like I was just done eating it. And I would have to figure out how to sell this to get like a grilled cheese sandwich from a kid. So can you imagine like having tinfoil wrapped up in some food called kibbe and like you're trying to trade that for like a pizza? And that's where I learned my sales ability. I always tell people because try to push like Lebanese food on like kids have no idea what it is, wrapped in tinfoil you can't even see. That's why I call it selling the invisible, which is with the services business because you can't really see anything. You kind of believe you kind of have to sell the story and experience versus the actual product. But anyway, so my why not moment, why not now was this one guy, when I started a company called Digitaria, I started very early on. I was like 23 years old, young kid. I always felt deep down I was going to be an entrepreneur. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I knew I was going to go build a company. I just didn't know what, when, or how. But there's a pivotal moment in my life in that kind of inception. Beyond the fact founding it with a couple of really good partners, we had 4 partners in the business. And by the way, we were like industrial psychology, like day one. So I can go on and on about what it takes to actually build a partnership and work with people well. I always think that you have to go to war with more than yourself, and you got to be around more than yourself to really succeed sometimes. But for me personally, one of the things that one of my moments was we were building a business, cash flow wasn't great. We needed more stable clients, and we kind of wanted a large business to kind of bring on board. And we were selling this thing called digital tech at the time, right? Like websites, and nobody knew what it was. And it was the digital revolution. People don't realize this is back in, I'm like 48 years old. So when I was 23, this is like 2000 and, probably 2019, 2000s. So when we were building the company, there was this one company called Mailbox Etc. And Mailbox Etc. was based here in San Diego. And it was like the sought after account. A lot of people wanted it. They're growing fast. The business was moving, franchises all over the world at the time. They're like the hot business. And there's this guy in there named Ray Khabie. And Ray, if you're there, hopefully you remember this story because it made a great impression on my life to the point where you're the feature of my podcast, 20, 25 years later.
Wow.
And Ray, Ray invites me. Okay. So he invites me to a franchise meeting. And at the time I'm like, what is a franchise meeting? I had no concept, right? So because as a kid, I always tell people as you get older, messages in cookies like mean something, like fortune cookies, like when you get older, like that shit means something, excuse my language. Like later on, you don't realize what things are as a young kid, right? You just don't know idea. So like the idea of franchise and going to a franchise meeting, no idea what that was, no concept. So he invites me there and I'm just hanging out. I'm like just some schmuck kid, kind of like doing my thing. I walk in and I'm just like casual, and Ray sits me down. And there are tons of people there, 1,000+ people there in a huge facility. And I've never been to something like that. And I was shaking my boots just being there. Like I was out there, the day before that I'm pitching like, digital like bait and tackle companies. Here I am in the middle of like this massive environment. And I'm like, young kid, never been here, don't know what this is. And this guy, Ray, invites me in. And I just called on Ray a bunch of times and, harassed him. And he's like, all right, let me bring this kid in, see what he's got. So we go in there and we're all sitting down there. And I noticed like all these agencies are there, which I tracked the agency market. So I knew kind of the people, all the major agencies, and one of which was Ogilvy. And Ogilvy is one of my most famous, people don't know, Ogilvy made there. David Ogilvy created one of the godfathers of advertising. And I was in love with that. And I'm like, holy cow, just being in the room with like an Ogilvy sign was like a massive deal for me. Like I couldn't believe that I was here. So we're back, and Ray was in charge of their entire digital business at Mailbox. It didn't exist. There wasn't a thing of it. They knew they wanted to be online, but he was like in charge of it. He's a really good, really savvy guy, good speaker. So Ray, we're sitting down, and we're all sitting down. He has his whole team there, and Ray's sitting next to me. And I run to the bathroom. I come back. I go, Ray. I go, oh, I hear you going up in a few minutes. He's like, yeah, I'm going up in like in 10 minutes and I'm going to tell everyone what I'm doing. I'm like, that's great. He looks at me, Amy Jo, and he goes, Dan, I have a question for you. I go, what? He goes, what do you think about you speak in my behalf? Amy Jo, I sat there and I said, Ray, you're obviously, that's really funny. You're kidding. I know that's a joke. I mean, this is a huge venue. I mean, no one in the right mind would do that. And he goes, Dan, I'm totally serious. I'm like, Ray, there's no way you're serious, Ray. I'm a kid. I'm a little kid. Like, what do you mean I'm going to go up there and talk? What am I going to say? He's like, Dan, you've pitched me so much on the vision of digital and where we need to go. Just go up there and speak. I'm like, Ray, there's like thousands of people. Everyone's here. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do this. And he looks at me. He goes, Dan, if you want our business, this is your moment. Ooh. Says this to me. And as I'm starting to cry and can't control my urinary situation, I am looking at him and I said to myself, you want to know something? This is my moment. Why not? What the hell? Why not? And I'm like, I don't really believe myself at this point because I'm thinking he's still kidding, right? All of a sudden, they go up on the stage and they go, we'd like to now introduce Ray Khabie. And I was like, Ray, you son, like he was calling my bluff this whole time to see if I had it. Then all of a sudden, someone walks up on stage, hands him a piece of paper and said, instead of Ray Khabie today, we now have a new speaker. His name is Dan Khabie from Digitaria.
Oh, man.
I'm thinking to myself, Ray, I'm going. Ray, I am going up there. And I literally stand up, put my bag down. The whole place is quiet. Nobody knows who I am. I'm walking down this aisle. It was like I was getting married, and I'm walking down this long aisle. Amy, you've done presentations, I'm walking down going, holy shit, what am I going to do? I have no idea. As I'm walking up there, I see the CEO, the guy named Mike Amos, a big guy. He's yelling at the person next to him. Who's this guy? They're all talking. Ray? They're all looking at Ray. Ray, get up. What are you doing? They're all yelling. And I just keep going. I'm like, screw these people. I'm doing it. I keep walking up, and to the right, there's a sign by David Ogilvy, and it says, if you don't change, you will die. And I walk up there. I take the mic. I said, my name is Daniel Khabie. I go, the great David Ogilvy has once said that if you don't change, you'll die. I represent change. Let me tell you about your digital future. And I just went. I put down the mic. I'm not even kidding you. I ran out of there, so pissed off. I don't even know what happened. Ray comes flying after. I go, Ray, how can you do that to me? He goes, Dan, you just won my business. Congratulations. And that was one of my first. And I'm telling you, to this day, I never walk into a place unprepared because I'm so scared and terrified of a Ray Khabie moment.
Oh my gosh.
That is a true story. And that was the beginning of building my company. And that's what I want to tell people. Like, if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have PTSD, then you're not working hard enough. Because if you want PTSD, that was a PTSD. Even to this day, my hand shakes talking to you, Amy. My hand shakes. Because those are moments that you'll never forget. And that why not moment for me was like, why not? I'm going for it. And I'll tell you, ever since then, my whole theory in life is, I'm so afraid of not trying because I'm not afraid of failing. I'm just afraid of not trying. And that motivates me. That motivates me to try things, to dabble things, to go places I normally wouldn't go, to ask questions you normally wouldn't go to. Sometimes you want to go where everybody is, but a lot of times you want to go where everybody isn't. And that's one thing that I've learned a lot about in that moment in time. Taught me a lot, and kind of looking back at that. There were a lot of fortune cookies that came out of the Ray Khabie moment. I can tell you that I would tell my future self. So anyways, that was my first kind of why not moment. And I know I've never shared this story with you, and I shared a lot of great stories with you. So I thought I'd bring a new one for you.
Okay. Highlight of my day. I mean, that is what a situation to frame and inform what and how you will behave and react to the world next. Like, in terms of, I have so many follow-up questions. Okay, first of all, you are an amazing storyteller. Is that innate, or did you learn that? Did you have that when Ray Khabie passed you the mic, or what did you sound like up there? Do you remember if you were like?
I was an entertainer. I love stories. I always tell people, I don't care if you're telling the truth or not telling the truth, just entertain me.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've kind of always believed, and I've always been a good entertainer because I'm very passionate about what I do. And I think when I went up there, it was a complete blank. I don't even know what I sounded like. I got to be honest with you. Probably a scared kid is my guess.
Someone had their VHS like RCA camera in the back. They did. And there's tape out there somewhere. One of the things that clicked as I was listening to you, Dan, is like, you have this ability to turn the Rocky soundtrack on in your mind and then make it contagious to others. So I feel it. And having known you for a while now and had these moments where you literally, I think, can flip a switch and all of a sudden you can hear it. You're like, I'm ready. When you thought Ray was giving you the mic and then you thought he wasn't. And I'm like, how do you have this contagious ability to do that? Have you always had that?
I think I have. I think as I get older, have you ever seen Mandalorian? I think I've talked to you about this, but like Mandalorian's a new like Star Wars episode, and there's this guy that like there's this baby Yoda, and baby Yoda has this ability to like raise things up and drop them. I mean, as soon as you raise him up, he goes to bed. And I think people that are type A, like people like Amy Jo, people like they're just really powerful personalities, they have this ability to lift things that other people can't lift, but then they crash right afterwards. And I think that I think for me personally, I live in moments where I am incredibly driven and motivated and can drive. And then there's moments where I'm meditating. I am deep into yoga. I'm deep into thought. I'm deep into checking myself at the door. So I struggle with, there's two Dans. There's the personal side of who I am, which is about, keeping my family close to me and making sure there's only they get a chance to see kind of parts of me. And then there's the other side of me where I know how to go out there and just show, kind of how to do it. And I think a big part of that is I came from nothing. My parents had nothing. They gave me love, right? And they gave me courage, and they always allowed me to be the person I am, right? They never, I always tell people that like the dumb doctor in my family went to Harvard, like there's a lot of kids, I'm one of five. And like, I always loved the fact my parents supported who I was, and they allowed me to be the person I am today, which I'm still kind of defining that, right? Like, I think, people talk about success and all these things. And, I sit there and I think for me personally, it's all about going out there and just being better every day and pushing every day and trying to help people around you. So for me, it's about trying to help people achieve amazing things. So I leave these moments for like people that are in really tough times where they need that rocky moment. I try to give them everything I have. And I try to really bring it if I can to motivate and inspire people, because I want people to realize that like, if I can do it, trust me, you can do it too. And that's the thing that I want people to take away from it.
It's true that you do that. I think teaching others to how to turn it on themselves when you're not there, in terms of like pushing their own buttons, is such a gift, is such a valuable thing that it's pretty unmatched. I don't know too many people that can pass that, that ability. So it's funny. I can hear the Rocky music sometimes. And I think about our conversations around companies and being entrepreneurs. And right now, we're going to get to this, but we'll do the movie trailer of what happened next with Digitaria and so on and so forth and where you are now. But you've had plenty of times in your life where you need to turn that Rocky music on often because it's a street fight, which I've heard you say, like it can be, being in a startup, being an entrepreneur. You mentioned PTSD. If you don't have it, are you trying hard enough? But that is a gift. That is a skill that you better learn how to turn on your own Rocky music because everybody else is busy, right?
Yeah, during my first major downturn in business, I had the Rocky moment, and then the economy crashed, and I had the moment of humility and just being incredibly humbled about the fact I couldn't sell myself. Rocky music couldn't sell yourself out of a global turn, and it's hard to believe that because when you've lived off of that, that ability to kind of move things that other people can't move, but you can't move an entire economic downturn. And that was hard for me. It was the first time where I call my superpowers didn't work. And that was when I learned a different side of me to seek advice and knowledge and become a really good listener and ask really good questions. And I think humility is a part of that.
Did it get you out of bed though? Could that Rocky music get you out of bed at least enough to go ask the questions?
I think the Rocky music, without a doubt, got me out of bed. I mean, I think that's what got me across it. I think for me, I just don't believe in I don't know. I don't use the term. I don't use the F term. I don't even want to say it. The failure term. I just don't use I don't use things like that. I don't believe in that. I don't think of that. I think we create our own way of seeing the world. And for me personally, I like really tough moments because tough moments, you get a chance to see not only what you're made of, but what are the people around you made of? And so I enjoy tougher moments and good moments. I actually get very nervous around good moments. When things are really good and everything's moving, I get really, really nervous because I know that it's just around the corner that I'm gonna have to dig really, really deep. And those moments of digging deep, every entrepreneur that's listening to this, they know what that means. I mean, that the soul searching, the humility that comes with losing, the thought you're gonna be incredibly successful, you just couldn't get there. There's a tremendous amount of courage it takes to go out there and say, I'm gonna put my flag down and say, I'm gonna create something for myself, right? You're the few people that do that. And with that courage takes a lot of, it takes a lot of heat and you gotta be ready for that mentally. So going back to your point, life's a street fight because if you're not on the street and you're not fighting, then what are you doing? Something's wrong. And that's why I feel more comfortable on the street than I do in the boardroom as a general rule of thumb.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. If you are digging this podcast, please do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment and it means a ton to us. One of the things that you've said to me before that rings in my head, and I always repeat it, and of course credit you, is the answers are on the street. They're not in a whiteboard session, right? And it's so true, and how quickly we can trick our minds into thinking that those strategy sessions, and not that they're not important, but that's not where the end all answers are. And going in and getting that feedback from the street. So let's do the movie trailer here. It's early 2000s. You are first-time entrepreneur. You are in your 20s. You have the stage. You land mailboxes, etc. Holybuckets.com bubble burst, among other things. 9/11. What happens next? And then, if you were to tell me the 2-minute version of how you got here today, where you are, and where you are literally, to describe that for everyone, what does that look like?
Well, I'll tell you the real down moment was, number one, we're on the verge of losing our business. So it was pretty much a done deal. Digitaria was done at that point. And I'll never forget, I had my first child. Her name is Mara. And we're about to deliver our baby. And literally baby's coming out. And my business partner somehow sneaks into the hospital, intoxicated, comes into the delivery session and looks at me and says, Dan, Mel, I'm so sorry to bother you. I know you're about to have a kid. Kid you not. No, I'm serious. Joe. He goes, I want to let you know that we're out of cash and we won't be able to fund payroll this week. And that's how my first baby came into this world. I mean, and that was a really tough moment for me. Like, here I am giving birth to my first child, and I'm watching the death of my first child
Yeah.
die in front of me. That was a really, really, really tough moment. And I never forget this. I was with my wife, and we were outside. We had our first kid, and we went home to Minneapolis. We're both from Minneapolis. My wife and I met each other in first grade, by the way. It's really fun. But anyways, that's just the way.
You probably sold her the food, right?
I know. But I'll never forget. We're sitting outside, and we had our first kid, and Mara, and we're outside. We figured out some short-term cash flow, but I'm out there shooting basketball, and Mel calls me in. I just got another really difficult call about the business. How basically it's going to go into receivership, and we're in big trouble. Banks taking over the business. They're calling our loans, which I can go into detail on. It was a really tough moment for me, and I'll never forget this. And I'm shooting baskets. My wife comes out. She goes, "Dan, it's time for dinner," and I'm like, I'm about to explode. I'm like, "What do you mean it's time? Dinner? Like I'm about to lose. We're about to lose everything." And you're talking about dinner. She's like, "Dan, there's nothing more important from all of us being together for dinner with my parents." And I'm thinking, you want to know something? There is. It's about our business going out of business. But you want to know something? It was that moment I realized my wife was right. That no matter what happens, no matter how difficult things are, family is the most important thing. And it's the only place really to find your soul again. And I kind of said, you want to know something? I'm going to put down the call. I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to sit down. And I never forget this. Her dad, who's incredibly bright, very savvy investor. He's a doctor, incredibly bright guy. He has the paper up and he's reading through the paper. He's reading through the dot-com bubble, all these things happening. And we're all at the dinner table. It's quiet. And I remember I can hear the clinging of glasses. And he looks over me and says, "Dan," he goes, "how is this impacting your business?" And I sat there. I look up and I said, "Everything's great. Everything's great." And I sat there and I said to myself, there's no way I'm going down like this. No way. And that moment was that moment where I said to myself, I'm either going to sit here and I'm going to cry about it and not come out of it. And I call it this is the death kill. This is the moment where entrepreneurs die. It's a moment when too much and you can't make it through. And I'll never forget this. At that point, I ran downstairs after 8. I called my business mentor, a guy named Lee Leachtag, who did so much for me in my life. This guy was unbelievable. Made millions of dollars, billions of dollars, unbelievable successful guy. He's like the kind of guy you think is dead because his name's on everything, but he's actually alive. And you meet him, you're like, oh my God, he's amazing. And I called Lee and I said, "Lee, I'm in big trouble." And he says, "Dan, I'm gonna give you some advice. 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. Keep it simple. The people that owe you money, restructure it. The people you owe money with, restructure it. And that's how you can create cash flow." And at that point, he gave me tools to go out there and begin fighting. And I never forget, after I got out of this mess, I called Lee one day. I said, "Lee, I want to thank you because you could have given me money. You could have written me a check. You could have done anything to get me out of this. Instead, you did the most important thing is you shared me your wisdom and gave me your knowledge that allowed me to go out there and figure it out." So that was the first moment where we began saving the company by understanding how economies and operations and how business works. And then from there, I ended up realizing that I needed people around me. I needed a really good operator. I needed a really good tech guy. I needed more around me. We ended up kind of going out there and I found this company that had a really good operator in it, had a really good tech in it, they had a really good story. And I'm like, this is it. And we literally merged our companies together without even signing anything. And we began working together immediately.
Wow.
And then later on, we began, at that point, and I'll never forget this, he calls me up, goes, "Dan, like you focus on selling, I'll focus on operating." And now, ever since that moment, I always have a very strong operator because what I realize is I got to be better at my strengths and I've got to outsource my weaknesses. And I've really, really kind of focused that as like my mantra on how I do business, which is you'll find me play a very specific role so I can save my energy for these rocky moments or pitches or everything. So I surround myself with people that can play different roles. And that allows me to be incredibly good at what I do. But without the great people around me, I can never be the person I am today. And that was the first moment I realized, man, I really needed that. And that was our run. We turned the company around. We ended up built Digitaria flew. And then I realized, I'm like, I want to see how good we really are. Let's see how good we really are. And I began moving to New York every summer to get to know a company called WPP because I was obsessed with them. I don't know great detail. They were so convinced.
For those listening, real quick, explain WPP in case you're
It's
not.
the largest marketing service company in the world, $16 billion. They own every major advertising agency in the world. And if you're in my industry, I was obsessed with them. To me, that's like, if you're playing basketball, like Mike, if you could play basketball with Michael Jordan, like that, or LeBron, depending on what area you're in, like they were that. And I studied them my whole life. I ended up moving to New York almost every summer. So they were convinced that our company was in New York. That's how much they saw me. And eventually they decided to buy us. And that was a great moment in my life because it was the first time I actually built something, failed at something, lost something, rebuilt something, merged with something, and then sold all that to a new company.
And the lifespan of kicking off all the way to the acquisition of WPP was
8 years until the first merger. It was about 7 years for the first merger, and then another 7 years after that. I would say 5 to 7 years in that range. It was a long haul.
Yeah. That's a big fight.
Yeah, I don't give up much easy, Amy. Like I don't give up. I got to finish the job I start.
And so this was, you obviously wore a lot of different hats in those, 14 whatever plus years. You're acquired. You are now working for under WPP and the company that you're under their umbrella.
Yeah. Before that, my brother-in-law had founded a company called Razorfish with a guy named Jeff Dotches. And these guys were killing it, man. They created this amazing business and they talk shit to me all day. They're like, Dan, you're in San Diego. Look what we're doing in New York. I was like, San Diego is like a third world country for marketers. It's not even like on the map. And these guys are killing it. And I used to go there to Razorfish. I'd walk in that office. Amy, man, I've never been so in love my entire life. I sat there and I couldn't consume. It was like, I couldn't get enough of it. What they were doing was unbelievable. And I swore to myself that one day I'm going to build a global company just like them.
With the candy bars and all the fun stuff.
I wanted to be part of building a global company. And I just wanted to do it out of San Diego. And you know why I wanted to do it in San Diego? Because everyone told me I couldn't. And it just pissed me off. And when you tell me I can't do something, that doesn't sit well with me at all. And that's when that you talk about the Rocky music, that's when it goes on overdrive. And that moment, going back to it, like going to WPP, one of the biggest reasons selfishly is that I want to build a global company. I wanted to see what I could do on a global stage. I wanted to go connect with people all over the world. I wanted to know about my Lebanese roots and who I am as a person. I wanted to hug people all over the world. I wanted to see what I can do. And when we ended up joining WPP, and the reason why we joined WPP, and this is the reason I decided that this would make sense for me personally, was because I knew that they had a weak business in there called J. Walter Thompson. And I knew that with the right movement, I have a shot to build what was Digitaria into a global business through J. Walter. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know when I was going to do it, but I just knew I could do it. And that's what I set out in doing. That's how I decided that J. Walter Thompson was the best fit for our company. Nothing to do with the money, I could earn money everywhere else. But you want to know something? What's more important than money is accomplishing personal goals. And I could care less about the money. I wanted to see if I had the ability to build a global company. And that was most important to me.
Amazing. So you did that for another 5 years. And then...
Well, it was the best time of my life. I had a great time, Amy.
That's not founder, co-founder. Like you're now CEO. This is different leadership. This is different day. Your day is going to look a little different. What was your biggest lesson in leadership throughout all that?
That was the old Dan. Like, I don't know that guy anymore. I just don't know him anymore. I mean, honestly, I have different Dans in different moments, but that was a different Dan. And that kid was a different kid. And he was very driven around this vision of building a global business. And he pushed really hard. Like that was like, like that back then, like I was pushing really hard. I hate to talk to myself in the third person, but like pushed really hard to like build a global company out of nothing. We basically merged 24 companies in 24 hours, something like that. We had 2,500 employees all around the world. We launched it in Singapore. I would do day flights I'd do like night flights to like Dubai. I mean, it was a different game. And for me personally, I had experienced that. But before I took on a job with Miriam, I promised my wife made I made my wife make a promise, which was, no matter what happens in 4 years from now, you have to pull me out of here. I told her that I'm an addict. I will be addicted to this world. I love this world, but I don't want to die in that place. And you have to do everything possible to pull me out. Because you know what happens is, as an entrepreneur, and people don't realize this, when you're selling a company to a big conglomerate, they have to think you're one of them. If they think you're not one of them, you'll never, ever, ever be a part of it. You'll be that like entrepreneur that made tons of money, and why are they here? And we're working hard. And you have to convince them unequivocally that you're one of them. That's the only way you're going to achieve your personal goals of building a global company. They'll never hand it over to you if they thought you were that other person. And so I knew that I'm going to have to go kind of deep undercover, really deep, to the point where I would lose myself along the way. And I needed someone to put their hand out and pull me back through to my old self. And I wrote a letter to my wife, and I made her promise me in 4 years, no matter what happens, you have to pull me out. And that goes to the next story, which is, basically, make a long story short, I was in Palm Springs, and the chairman, Martin Sorrell, who I idolized, was, amazing guy who built an amazing company, and he ran into some challenges, and he was removed from the business. And it was roughly 4 years in, not thinking about the promise or the timeline. I kind of felt like, God, if I'm going to leave, maybe this is a good time to leave. A lot of confusion, a lot of misorganizations. I'm like, this is the time. I saw the world was changing around us. I'm like, I need more to be nimble. I need to be a speedboat. Like, I just need to figure it out. And I'm sitting there, and I call up my chairman. Her name is Tamara Ingram, an amazing person. And by the way, I had 3 chairmen in a span of 4 years, and every one of them are amazing. And I love every one of them. And they all supported me. They're all amazing. They all have these unbelievable talents. But when Tamara called, and I told Tamara it was time for me to leave, she says to me, darling, in her lovely British accent. She goes, darling. She's like, you're not going anywhere. She's like, Dan, you're one of us. She goes, I think I know who the new chairman's going to be. You're going to love it. You're not leaving. 2 hours later, I get a call from my brother. Unfortunately, my dad gets sick, and 30 days later, he ends up dying and ends up passing away. And that was coincidental. And because of my dad's passing, they knew how close I was with my dad. They assumed that because of that is why I wanted to leave. They were so amazing to me at that time, Amy. They gave me the space I needed. They gave me time to kind of mourn the loss of my father. They gave me time to kind of go through that process. And that was probably one of the most difficult times for me, because I live in a place in a zone where I did things for my parents. And so to lose one of your parents, you're like, what am I doing this for? Like, why am I doing this? Like the rocky moment kind of when it started going down for me. Like it kind of went away. And that was a moment for me of kind of like really going deep into myself. This was kind of my rebirth moment on knowing it. And what happened was, I ended up getting a call from the chairman of WP, the new chairman, a guy named Mark Reed, great guy. He was involved with buying Digitaria. He was the top guy now. I knew him really well. He's an amazing, amazing, amazing person. I'm a huge fan of his. He goes, Dan, I want you to stay. Calls me personally, just get the job. It's an amazing, amazing opportunity for you. He teed it all up for me on the stick. You can never leave a job like this. This is it. This is my moment. So I've been waiting for. I'm walking my wife. I said, Mel, Mark called me, exciting opportunities ahead of me. There's so much I can do in there. This is going to be amazing. I'm starting to rebirth myself around it. She says to me, she goes, Dan, 4 years ago, you wrote a letter and you promised me to tell you this. And I love our life and I don't want to change our life because it's great. We're doing well. You managed it well, but you predicted this. You predict this would happen. And I'm here to remind you. She gave me the letter. I read it to myself. And then that weekend, I was on a flight to my dad's tombstone. And I remember sitting there going, I told my dad before he died, I'm going to start a new company. And that was the moment Mark called me up and said, Mark, please don't offer me a job. Don't offer me any more jobs because I don't want to reject you, but I have to go find that kid again. I need to go back to the street. I need to go back to that. I need to go find that kid again. I need to go find who I am again. And that was my moment. That was my moment where I looked around and I said, I'm gonna go start a new life for myself. And that was really hard for me because my identity was Digitaria. My identity then became Miriam. My life was there. And I love what I did. I loved everybody. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even go back in the office because every time I walk in there, everyone's like, Dan's not leaving. He loves it here. I loved it there. And I just knew I had to start a new path for myself. And one of the biggest reasons beyond everything else is my kids never saw me build a business. I was too young. So by the time they were all born and they knew what I was doing, I was already running a successful business. I wanted them to know what it's like to build something out of nothing. And I wanted them to watch me do it. And the best place to do it was out of our garage. And so we started CourtAvenue out of a garage in sunny San Diego. And we began our journey into the next chapter of my life. But that kind of sums up. I mean, that's a lot for your viewers to kind of dive into. But I'll tell you that moment with my dad passing and then saying goodbye to everybody. And then, changing life, I burnt everything down. As a matter of fact, there was a point I had no possessions. We had sold our home. Had no possessions. And I really feel like anyone that's out there that's hearing me, when you're in a moment of change like this, that my best advice is you got to burn it all down. I know it sounds crazy, but you got to burn it all down in order to rebirth yourself. And I really believe that. And I was naked to the world. I was out there as just another kid trying to start it again. And I had to get out there and kind of get that fight back and that spirit back. And I made my kids all write quotes in Sharpies on the whiteboard so I could never forget during those tough moments. And it was hard, man. When you start a company, when you first start, anywhere else, you're young, you just start it. You don't think you have nothing to lose. But when you walk away from everything and everyone looks at you like you're crazy and you go start a new life for yourself, man, it's really, really hard. And so that was kind of that was that chapter.
That's a lot. I mean, that ride in itself, when you were at that point and Mel said to you, hey, we had this deal, 4 years ago. Did it take convincing or was it like, oh yeah, it's a hard no? Was it, a brewing, let me think about this, think about it, or was it just quick?
No, I think it was moments on the tombstone. My wife was not like, she was not at all. She was like, she loved our life. She was not like, she had the curse of playing that, like she was the host, like she had to tell me what I said. So I think for me, she like just let it be. So she was just very cool about it. So there's no pressure to go or stay. Okay. I think for me was, I looked at my dad, I kind of sat there and I thought about myself and I kind of said, I don't know, man, do I still have it? Can I do it? And I just thought there'd be nothing better to be able to show people that are in this midlife trying to reinvent themselves. I feel like I could share that story with them if I could make it on the other side, win or lose. And I just felt like it was kind of my duty to go out there and start a new life for myself. And I just kind of felt like it was time for me to do it and leave everything behind and go through that and feel that.
So fast forward to today. What are you building? Where are you? What's going on?
So what ended up happening was, I'm a stalker. You'll learn that about me. I'm like obsessed. I get obsessed with companies and businesses and people. And I'm like relentless into figuring everything they did and how they did what they did. I'm like I want to know everything. I want to know everything there is to know about every little thing. And I want details. I don't want top level stuff. I want to know how they did, how they felt. So there's this one guy who created this company called Rockfish. I was really impressed with a guy named Kenny Tomlin. He built an amazing company. He had a bunch of really smart people in there and he was doing a bunch of retail work. And he had big clients like Walmart and so on and so forth. He was doing this called digital shopper and digital shopper marketing and digital innovations and all this stuff. And he was doing it out of Bentonville, which I'm like, God, I mean, I know Walmart's there, but how are you doing that? And he built this amazing company, ends up going to WP, rocking it in WP. I'm like, who are these guys? And I ended up stalking Kenny. And I'm like, Kenny, I got to know him. I'm like, dude, we got to do something. Like, I learned a ton. You learned a ton. What happens when we bring it all together? Like, what do you think? And he's like, oh God, I'm doing some other, I'm leaving. I'm doing some other stuff. And I'm like, Kenny, I think like we should think about it. And so like I ended up kind of getting him involved. And then, I kind of brought my crew. He brought his crew and we met people like lovely people like Amy Joe and like all these other people. And then we started this company called CourtAvenue, which basically has three components. We have like a digital services business, which is really focused on strategy consulting for Fortune 1000 businesses that are looking to kind of win in digital. And we're doing a lot of tech and infrastructure and strategy work. And our clients are Kia Automotive. We're doing Kia.com and Kia in-car. And we're doing everything around the digital ecosystem. And the second area is we incubate products and software companies. We either invest in them or we create them or we incubate them. And the third area is we're actually beginning to kind of acquire businesses in other niche areas. So we just acquired a company called Modify that specializes in direct-to-consumer digital marketing. We're looking at things in the kind of AI, ML space. We're going to continue to kind of build that. And then we're expanding overseas into Mexico and other locations. It's kind of the playbook I have. And we're building a great company. We started this thing 18 months ago. We're almost going to cross about 80 people. We're bigger. In 18 months, we're bigger than I was once I sold Digitaria. In 18 months, which makes me realize I totally wasted 14 years of my life. But that's besides the point. But the business is moving, and I'm very blessed to have a great partner around me. I was really thoughtful about kind of working with Kenny and kind of working with the team. And we started the business in the beginning of COVID, and just been really relentless with it and just really enjoying myself. And I just, Amy, I feel just really blessed to be on the other side. I feel really, really blessed. Like, I don't take it for granted. I'm incredibly fortunate to make it to the other side. And there isn't a day that I thank, my wife, my family, the people around me, Kenny, everybody else for allowing this opportunity for me to kind of create a new life for myself, because I could have got lost in there and I could never came out. And I'm just so happy that I'm kind of back on this side trying to, just create a new life for myself. And I'm really blessed by that, honestly.
Well, I know I've learned a ton from you, Dan, and I think it's like one of your superpowers is spotting talent and organizing around it to create something that's unmatched, which the results that you've been creating at CourtAvenue, which I think is funny, by the way, because my dream out of college was to go work on Madison Avenue. And now I never did that, by the way. There's some Jennifer Aniston movie about her working at an ad agency, whatever. I did my ad agency stint, but now I'm an investor in CourtAvenue, which is much better, by the way. Learning from, from the hardcore, best ad guys in the world. So lucky me. But what's the one thing you keep learning over and over?
Oh, man. I mean, I need really good operators around me to succeed. I mean, we brought in Michael Stick, and Michael's been amazing, right? He's like the third, amigo. And then we surrounded him with Jaina and Janine and now Nicole and just, we have a huge Kayla runs experience. And like, I don't know, like you just, the other day I was on a call, I was watching Michael kind of do his thing and I'm with him and I'm just like, it's right. Like, it's right. And so for me, I just know a team, you just know when it's right. And I just think, like, I call it the it factor. Some people just have the it factor, some people don't. So I try to combine a lot of its together. And if you don't combine, if you have one weak it, you're in big trouble. So I try to combine a lot of unique skill sets, and I want diversity. I want different perspectives. I want everything to be in there. And that's what makes our business great. Because at the end of the day, talent, the people, I'm not talented like them, Amy. Like, I don't design stuff. I don't code. I feel blessed that they allow me into their world. They're superpowers. And my job is to create a safe environment for them so they can feel comfortable doing the things that they do. And the worst thing you can do for people that are talented is make them feel untalented. That's how bad bosses control talent, is they make them feel untalented. They make them feel insecure so they never leave them. I think what you do is you got to love them and you got to be blessed that they allow you into their amazing skills, because God gave them something that other people just don't have. And so I'm in the business of assembling great talent, to your point, surrounding myself with the right people and being very clear about the role that I play in that situation. And I just do my role the best I can do. And that's what I try doing.
I love it. And you're doing it. I mean, what's lovely, if you're listening to this and you want to learn more about Kenny Tomlin or Michael Stick, they've also been on the show. And it's a trifecta. It's interesting to look at the dynamics between leadership, but then also what you've all surrounded yourself with, this mosaic of it factors, for sure. If we were to go back to you sitting next to Ray, and you could go back to yourself in that moment and say something before you got up and you didn't know if you're going to take the mic or not, what would you say?
That's a great question. What I would say to my old self. I mean, I think I'd probably tell him to grab that goddamn mic and put on a show. Don't look back. I think we all, listen to me. One of the biggest reasons I do meditation and I try doing yoga is that it's really easy to beat your own self up. It's really easy to kind of reflect back and say, oh, I wish I did this, or I wish I invested in that. But it's about what you're going to do now. And I wouldn't change that present. If I was back there with that person and said, grab that goddamn mic and put on a show, I would not tell them what would happen. Like, I just think we're too much living either too forward and too back. And I tend to do that because I'm a chess thinker. But I think that at the end of the day, it's all about what you do now, what we do right now in this world, and how we contribute right now to around us. I mean, one of the things I think about the world, I call us we're the States of America, not the United States of America, because there's so much disconnect amongst people. And I think we as people, just in general, as humanity, need to do everything we can to help one another and be together. And I think it's not what we think is going to happen in the future or what we're going to stop behind, but it's about what we're going to do now. And I'm just a big proponent that we've got to all contribute in different ways. And my way to contribute to the world is help people where they need help, lean in wherever I can lean in, be a great, citizen of humanity. And we all have our flaws. I have my flaws. Everyone has their flaws. We all have our weaknesses, but love those weaknesses because that's what makes us great. The weaknesses is what makes us who we are, because there's someone around you that will make that weakness into a diamond. And I think that's the most important thing. Surround yourself. Don't be afraid to be honest about the stuff that you're really shitty at. I always tell people the stuff you're really shitty at, just make it a hobby. Don't try to become an engineer overnight if you're not an engineer. It's going to be impossible because there's 100 times better than you. Be great at what God's given talent has given you. Just be great at that. And the rest will come together. That's kind of my perspective.
I love it. I thank you. Thanks for letting me be on this journey and, to witness the innovation happening at CourtAvenue among some of the brightest people that I've ever met. It's fascinating where you take one component and I'm like, I love it because these things don't always go together and you're finding ways. And that's when we do create innovation, is when we're mixing and matching things that create head tilts. It's like, wait, are they really gonna? Yep, they did. They just did that. And it's such a fun ride. So thank you. Thanks for sharing your time and wisdom. And I could listen to you all day. You're a Rocky DJ. That's what you do in life. Like you turn that music up for people and
And I got to tell you something, by the way, going back to Rocky, I got to tell you something. It's really funny you say that. Amy knows me all too well, everybody. When I was getting ready to launch CourtAvenue, I'm not even kidding you. I literally sat in my third car garage, which was no air conditioning, dying of heat exhaustion in there. And I'd work out. And I swear to God, Rocky Balboa would be playing all the time. And as a matter of fact, I'll never forget, so I'm walking with my wife. And I said, she looks at me, she goes, Dan, I think it's time to go. Cause I took some time, I took like a year off. She's like, Dan, I think it's time. And she was that Adrian moment where she's like, Dan, it's like time to go. And like those bells rang. And I'm like, I'm out. I'm going to go start a new life for myself. So you're right about that. I mean, I definitely bring the bells. And by the way, going back to that, when I interview people, I always tell people, just take 2 days, the Dan, bell, Rocky music will wear off, and then really decide if you want to be here. I just love what I do. And I'm very passionate. So just know that take 2 days, let it chill out, and then really decide. So I recognize that. And I appreciate you, Amy, and I appreciate you allowing me to be on your day. Love everything that you're doing and wishing you nothing but the best. And everyone listening today, if you ever need anything, reach out to me. And I wish everyone all the best. And, let's hope for nothing but great things ahead of us. So thank you, Amy.
Oh, thank you. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your why not now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?